So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this regular public meeting of the 23rd of April of the Municipal Council of Dieppe. Without further ado, we go to the welcome words. Dear colleagues, let's have the serenity of accepting the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, it's called to order. Confirmation of quorum. We have quorum. Now we go to the conflicts of interests. Are there any conflicts of interest? None. So we continue with the next item. Adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Cormier, that we adopt the agenda as presented. On the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Contrary-minded, nay. So the agenda is carried as presented. Presentations, inquiries, and petitions. 7.1. Inquiries by council members to Kodiak Regional RCMP. We're going to start with Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. RCMP, you're doing very good work on the street, but I have a complaint concerning speed around Lakeburn by the airport and then to the limits of the town. I think it slowed down at one point, maybe because you were monitoring, but I think speeding is up again. So I think you'll have to keep an eye on that if you can. Oh, sorry, you just turned the mic off that I turned on for you. Yeah, I'm a beginner here. So I'm not supposed to touch it, right? Yes, okay, I'll pass the message along to the office. That's what happens. People realize that we are present and they slow down. So we have to do it over and over again. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that's all. Do you have anything to add? Not really, no. No other questions? No, nobody else has turned their lights on. So you're welcome to stay, but we will understand if you decide to leave. Yes, you can be excused. I know there's always work to be done. 7.2, presentation on public transit. Essentially, it's a follow-up on the presentations that were done last week. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the objective of the presentation today is as a follow-up from the Directive of Municipal Council concerning the project pilot for the free transport for youth, specifically 18 years and younger. So following the directive of council, staff, the administration met a few times. We met the directors of Kodiak Transport, and we also discussed around the board of Dieppe. We consulted members of Youth Action, sector from leisure. And last week, we also had discussions, a second meeting with the Governance Committee of Kodiak Transpo. These are the elected representatives from the three municipalities to discuss with staff on these initiatives. So tonight, it's an update on this project. So very quickly, the objectives of the initiative, basically what we want to do is increase ridership, particularly the youth. The members of council have already been to conferences, meetings where we heard about Kingston's initiative, and Councillor Godet, who came back and who really liked the idea of Kingston and figured that it would be a good idea for free service for youth. So here we're continuing a little bit in the same vein. We want to encourage families and the youth. We know it's not that easy sometimes as a family to use public transit, there's a cost. So this type of initiative would probably help families to use public transit for other things than this essential transit. We also want to offer autonomy and mobility to our teens so that not always mom and dad is going to be moving them around. And then also we want to convert those youth into paying customers when they reach 18. So it's basically a change of culture. The idea is to increase ridership, but we also think this initiative is going to help the progression of this culture change. So the discussions that we had with Kodiak Transpo, obviously there were challenges that we want to address. It was the uncertainty of the impact of the revenues. It's very difficult now with the statistics, the data that we have to say, okay, it's going to be a positive or a negative impact. We don't know. We are basically working on estimates. So that was one of their concerns, and we'll tell you how we want to address that. Questions of admissibility by the bus operators. How do they know who's coming into the bus? It's basically one of their challenges. And finally, the risk management. A couple of years ago during the summer, they offered free service for the youth, but there were times in the network when there were youth less than 12 years who stayed on the bus, so they would just wanted to make sure that that didn't occur again, find solutions. They were part of the concerns, and I think we found solutions. So the broad lines of the project that is being proposed, it would be offered to 18 years and less in Dieppe. That's the Dieppe, until the end of secondary school. So essentially, if we had a program that lasted, we could probably imagine that he's 18 years in March. He's not going to lose his privileges. He'll go until the end of June. A youth who's going to have 18 is going to be 18 years in September. Then in that case, his privilege would probably end at a fixed date, which would probably be the 1st of July or the 31st of August of the year when you reach 18. We want everybody to be treated the same thing. My birthday is in March, it goes till August, or in April, it's the same thing. August, it's the same thing. Another important point is that this free access would be only on Dieppe trips. So if somebody needs to go to Moncton, there'll have to be a transfer, and then they'll have to pay the difference, or pay the cost for the Moncton. We're talking about a specific pass for 11 years old and less, and 12 to 17. That's how the operators could distinguish. It would be a different colored pass. Who has the right to board the bus alone, 12 and more, and those who are less than 11 years old, or who are 11 and less, have to be accompanied by an adult. We're also thinking about a required registration with parents' authorization. It's been done in other towns. I think Kingston, that's the way they started. So in order to obtain a pass, you have to register with the authorization of parents. There'll be communications with the parents. There'll be necessarily information to obtain, and that would be for 12 years and older. The passes would be given by the municipalities. We've established some type of framework. It would either be by a Mercredi show or youth festivals or other community activities. We could be present. We could even go to schools to make sure that these passes would be distributed to the people. And later, well, that's going to be done progressively. Then it could be done at the municipal hall or the aquatic center where we could give out those passes. We're talking about 12 months. We'll be able to see the ridership, what kind of interest, and the way we're going to measure it is with the percentage or the number of youth who will be registered with the pass. So we'll be able to have at all times the number of participants, and what we wish to do equally is to have periodical surveys, either on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. We could find out basically the impact on revenue, but also at registration time, it was suggested we could be asking questions concerning their current ridership. For example, 100 youth who get registered, and there are 50 who say that they already have a pass monthly or something. That would give us an indication already the type of impact it could have on revenue, either positive or not negative. So we would therefore get a little bit more data from the get-goes. The measure of success, we'd have statistics on ridership and on the impact on revenue. So basically, that's the concept. Concerning the process to get there, we've already consulted some youth, some parents. We started to work out on certain parameters with the Kodiak Transpo, governance committee. Tonight, it's presentation to council. So the intention of council is to continue, and I think that is the case. We'll be coming back to you with a memorandum, with an official recommendation on the 13th of May, so that you can make an official decision. And then afterwards, time to set things up so that everything could be set up and get ready to go on the 1st of July. So that's my presentation. I'm open to questions. Questions by members of council. Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I understood properly, in the report, the passes would be given out here at the municipality or at different events that we could be holding. One concern would be to have a pass or the identity card at the bus stop, and that could slow down the process. No, this is going to be very similar to what they have now. It's going to be a perforated card per trip, and the youth would keep it for the year. It would be given to them at a kiosk, at a special event or municipal hall. Once they've filled out the form, they get the card immediately, and that's it. I totally agree with the report. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Madame Le Boutillier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a way of controlling. If I can understand, we can give the cards out, but there's no way to find out if it's going to be used because the cards are going to be free. But my daughter, I'd get a free card, but is my daughter going to use it? So I was wondering if it was a possibility, maybe, as we see in a lot of activities, there's a punch card. Maybe there could be a system like that. Once they've used it 20 times, they could come and pick another one up. It would be maybe a better way of monitoring use. That's an idea, maybe. Yes, that's another way of doing. We discussed briefly with people from Kodiak, and the challenge maybe here is that people have to come back to pick up another card, and for youth who are not as mobile as adults, maybe that could prevent them from doing it. So what we're heading towards is something different, but it's not a bad way. What we might do with the survey, because when people are going to be registering, we're going to need an email, either a parent or even the youth. And the idea is to try to do surveys by email on ridership. And that could give us an idea of ridership. Another problem with the perforated cards, if the person doesn't use his or her card, for example, 20 times and he only uses 10, we'll never get that pass back. I mean, he's not going to use it or he's going to lose it. So that won't necessarily give us an idea of ridership. So it's basically a question of logistics that we thought that it might be a little more complicated. But what we do want long-term is obtain a type of technology that will give us a type of code, and we're working on it, or Kodiak Transport is working on it with the funding, and by 2020 maybe we'll have something a little more precise. Something, yes. Yeah, we've been hearing that for quite a while. Yeah, something, sometime. Any other questions by members of council? If not, I think there's a consensus to continue to work at this issue and to bring back a official recommendation at the next meeting. Next item. Public hearing on amendments to conditions project on Lafayette Street. Monsieur Fredette, good evening. Good evening, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. So tonight, as it's been mentioned, we have a request of amendment to conditions to bylaw ZA32. It was a bylaw that was adopted in 2016 by Municipal Council. And following this adoption of the bylaw, there was a new proposal to modify the site plan of the property and also certain conditions that were that related to the bylaw. So as usual, there's the we'll be talking about the description of the proposed project. We'll be talking about the changes or the current regulations and the changes that are proposed, and then the presentations, comments, objections. So the procedure of the amendment, the 18th of March, Municipal Council adopted a resolution to fix a date for the public hearing. On the 20th of March, it was presented on the website, indicating to people that there were going to be a public hearing, and also the letters that were sent. That's the practice in a radius of 100 meters around the property. The next steps, following tonight, the 15th of May, there'll be the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee, following which on the 27th of May, Municipal Council will be able to decide to proceed with tonight's request or not. So the owner is a numbered company 707163, New-Brunswick, Inc. The applicant who is here tonight is Mr. Thierry Comtois. The PID of the property is 704-74176. And the lot, or the piece of land, is situated, I'll show you, at the end of Lafayette Street, close to Amiro Street, and that's on the marsh, on the track, and the walking track, and the Petit Kodiak. So what was accepted, the Z832, was for two apartment blocks with 79 units. There was a zoning that was should be amended to facilitate more density. So this is for two apartment blocks of 24 units. So you see the buildings here that were accepted. You see the size. You see the type of architecture and the material that was proposed. The next slide is the new proposal. We're talking about one building as opposed to two of 24 units. This would be 79 units on 5 floors. The height would be 20 meters. The total area would be 7,800 square meters. Concerning parking, there would be 58 parking spots surface, but there's also be underground parking, approximately 60 spots underground. The proposal meets the zoning, either for the height or for the setbacks that are necessary. If you look at the site plan, when we analyze things internally, we also recommend multi-sectorial meetings, and as you can see, there's the fire department that made sure that their biggest vehicle could have access, but it can also move around on the site. Concerning the building, it's similar to the two buildings, except that it's one 5-story building. And okay, it's one instead of two buildings. The material a little higher quality than what was assented to on 2016. There'll be some stone on 4 faces. There's one face that requires at 50% specific material. The owner is ready to give the proper material on 4 faces. This is a presentation on scale of what it could look like once built. It gives you a bird's eye view. We're above Amiro Street. We're looking towards the marsh, towards the Petit Kodiak. We can see the difference in elevation and in the size of the building. It's a street that kind of goes down, so there are 2-story buildings in the neighborhood, but the building that we see, the big one, is 5 stories. So it gives you an idea of what it could look like. This is another point of view as we enter Lafayette Street. What it could look like. So the amendments, like I explained, the new site plan shows one building of 5 stories, 20 meters of maximum height, with 79 residential units. Also, with the architect's plan, the specific materials, it would be white stone and dark gray aluminum siding. So the next step following the public hearing, as I mentioned to you, we have to make a recommendation, or at least the the Planning Advisory Committee will be making recommendations on the 15th of May, and then on the 27th of May, the council possibly could make a formal decision. I want to say that today I met one of the neighbors in the area. We see very well here. It's the neighbor to the south, right here. And following the presentation and the explanation, the neighbor had no objections to formulate tonight. So letters were sent in a radius of 100 meters. We had one person who came to see us. It's the owner of the vacant lot to the south of it, and there's no objection on his part. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. You haven't received any other sort of communication? No, nobody else. All right, questions. Councillor Thibodeau. Question what I was going to ask first was the question that you asked, so I go to question number 2. I see that the bicycle yard is not too far away. How far away is it going to be? I can see, I think that we can see the path here. I don't have the exact distance, but if you look at it's really outside of his land. It's where the cul-de-sac ends, so it's an access. So generally speaking, it's 12 meters. So that's where is the right-of-way, but the path that is built there, usually there's 6 meters of surface, but I'm not too sure of that. So I don't know, Monsieur Thierry Pontois, would he have the answer? But once again, it meets the specific requirements concerning the street. Mr. Councillor Blanc, have we taken precautions for the flooding zone? Yes, I'll bring you back to the first site plan. It's something that we do automatically. When we're close to a sensitive zone, we make sure, first of all, that there's been special authorization. If that's the case, then we put it in from environment. Here, though, the site plan that was approved during the first rezoning in 2016, there had been a limit to find out where the buffer zones should be, and we're still respecting them. It was mentioned to the applicants, and it was respected when they gave us the new information. Was there anything concerning elevation? It's the same thing for elevation. We're outside and it meets the requirements of the zoning, and this is what we see with the underground parking. It's going to be slightly higher. So we always ask for geotechnic tests to make sure that the soil, the earth, is capable of supporting a building that is of such proportion. So all this was done beforehand. Great, thank you. Madame Arsenault. Sorry, Monsieur Fournette, but is the whole area R3, or is it just half, and the other half is R2? I think we see fairly well here on this slide. The site plan in 2016 was there was this land, this section was R3, the other section was R2. On the other hand, when it was rezoned in 2016, the whole land was rezoned to R3. In the sector to north of it, the vacant land whose owner we saw, his land R3, and then afterwards it's a kind of a mix, it's average density there. So there won't be any problems at all. We already had the proper zonage since 2016, so it's just a question of amending conditions. Thank you. Any other questions? Leave your mics alone, please. Thank you. No other question? No? So thank you for the presentation. Next step is to present the project to the PAC, the Planning Advisory Council, bring the committee, bring this back to council. I said the 25th of May, 27th of May, 27th of May. Okay, thank you. Next item, questions by members of the public.
Council, my name is Michael McBurney. This is my husband, Sean LeBlanc. Currently reside at 366 Baby Court in Dieppe. I have a couple questions regarding area councillors. Jean-Marc is not in attendance tonight. Can somebody indicate to me which area he's responsible for in terms of representation?
Ward 1.
And what are the parameters of that ward, basically? Like, where does
Essentially Old Dieppe and Champlain Street.
Jean-Claude? And essentially, where does that area? Okay. And Mr. Gaudette's not present tonight, so which ward would he represent?
Ward 3.
Yes, I understand that, but what are the parameters of his ward?
Going out to abutting on Councillor Cormier on number 2, and going south to Gauvin Road. No, past Gauvin Road. Belançon. Yeah, Melanson Settlement Road, yeah.
Okay. And last, Ernest Thibodeau.
Ward 4. Ward 4 is east of Dieppe Boulevard and part of Gulf Street.
Okay. Area. And of course, Roger LeBlanc, you're my area councillor, which would go from where? Basically. Okay, so you're responsible for Emido and those areas as well? Great. The reason why I wanted to establish that is because I had recently sent an email to each and every one of you here on council tonight, just on April 18th. So has everybody received and had a chance to review that email? Okay. So my question to the ward councillors that are present this evening, if you were faced with that situation in your ward, what would be the procedure to rectify that situation if, once the initial complaint was brought forth to you?
I will stop your questions right now because, as you are well aware, we are currently going to court this week based on our investigation as a result of your complaint, and I will not want to prejudice our case, which really involves action to satisfy you and your family. So I think the last thing I want to do is jeopardize our situation going to court. So I'm not sure where you're going with this. I have a pretty decent idea, and I think it may jeopardize our case with the person that you're in, and we are in conflict with.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for correcting yourself,
Okay.
because it's not me.
We
It's
are,
between you and the city.
right,
Or the city and.
as a result of your complaint, which we are handling in the best possible way.
So if I can't come to a public forum and during the question period at council, if I submit a request for information form to try to obtain,
which
information.
you have done handfully,
and then I receive a letter from your lawyer telling me that nobody here is responsible to reply back to my concerns or my requests. So how am I supposed to continue my everyday, daily living, not knowing what's going to take place tomorrow?
well, you know what's taking place from a legal standpoint at this point in time.
No, I don't, because nobody has ever sat down and invited my husband and I into this room, even though that we've offered to sign a confidentiality clause stating, just to let us know simply what's going on. The miscommunication on behalf of bylaw enforcement, city management, everyone. We don't know today, after 6 years of dealing with this, where we stand.
I would encourage you to be in court next week when it's happening, and hopefully you will receive an answer. I'm not, I'm not a lawyer, but.
No, but you know what,
but
Mayor,
I
we're
have
just
had some-
asking for
can you-
compassion.
Can you let me
and
finish?
understanding.
let you-
I have a list of questions that I have every right to ask here this evening.
But again, because of the legal complaint that we are pursuing, I don't want us to jeopardize this thing. If you cannot understand that, we're trying to help here. You may not think so, but that's exactly what we have been doing, what we will continue to do to enforce the bylaws that are in place and take it to the end game. So if you have questions, again, I would ask you to put them in writing, submit them to our greffier, to our clerk, assistant clerk, and they will be answered in due process.
I don't understand how,
Well, I'm sorry if you
You
can't
can-
understand, maybe you should
can-
get yourself a lawyer and get some advice, because the worst thing that we can do at this point in time is jeopardize our legal position, which essentially is an answer to a complaint that you made, which we are handling.
you people are elected by the public to
You
represent
don't need to represent.
each and every person within this
You
city.
don't need to
And
tell me who's elected me. I
But
know who's elected
I'm
me.
paying $3,000 in property taxes to live in this city, and I'm not getting the services. Yvonne, when,
Look, I'm not going to have that discussion any further, because I do not want us to drive down that lane and jeopardize our case. We have been spending a whole lot of money trying to handle this situation.
I'm spending a
and
whole
I am
lot of
not-
money to try to
Well, I'm
rectify
not-
this
I'm not
situation as
gonna
well.
I'm not going to get into that contest, who's spending money where and so on, but I assure you, and you should know, we are spending a lot of money on this line. If you don't think that the staff time is worth anything to you, I can assure you that it's worth something to all the others, to all the citizens,
We have
including
been
yourself.
nothing
So-
but more than cooperative in the last 4 years with each and every individual that's in this room.
And we ask you to continue to do that.
In the
So as
meantime,
not to
my
jeopardize-
adoption is still on hold because of this, and now all of my documentation for adoption has expired because we've had to put this on hold. Is that fair to us?
I'm not going to define what's fair to who. That's not my position here. My position here is trying to protect the city's case in this situation, which is going to court next week.
So who here is my representation? Who can I pick up the telephone and ask a question?
With regards to that to that particular matter,
No, in regards to illegal burning, in regards to unsightly premises, who do I get to put these
Look.
complaints through to?
continue to send your complaints in, and they are being handled. But
I have
there
no
is one.
reassurance, I have no reassurance,
they are-
because nobody here is responding to me, period.
And if you want to keep it in the public forum, we will not answer it, because again, I don't want to jeopardize our case.
Okay, so on
You're walking a very thin line at this point in time.
March 11th, there was an appointment to form a committee regarding dangers and unsightly premises at the last council meeting. What is the purpose of this committee?
To make a decision on unsightly premises.
Okay, so can the members of the public deal directly with this committee, or is there a process?
It's a process, and it's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so I would assume that the process would be to contact bylaw enforcement in the beginning, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So what if bylaw enforcement's not responding to you? Where do you turn to next?
They are responding to you. They are looking at the situation. They are gathering evidence. So again, I'm not going to say any more. And, I'm afraid I'm going to have to shut down the microphone, because just to protect you.
That's
since
unfortunate.
you don't want to protect us.
Very unfortunate.
I'm going to protect
The last time I checked, I
us
was
and
not
you.
employed by the city of Dieppe. But this is what I've had to try to obtain to hopefully give me a little bit of peace of mind and proof in knowing that I'm trying to work to resolve this issue.
As we
In the last
are.
4 years,
As we are.
we've been extremely cooperative with you.
As we are. Thank you. We now, one other item for the public forum. Monsieur, on va parler de la journée.
We're going to be talking about Earth Day. I'm here, well, first of all, hello, Mr. Mayor and members council. Oof, take a breath of fresh air. Okay, I wanted to come here to thank you personally for your support once again this year. It's been 12 years that I've been organizing this event, and the first 10 were in Moncton, and now this is the second year in Dieppe, and we're very happy. Things went very well. We had more than 2,000 people during the whole day. So thank you once again to Mr. Mayor and to Ernest for having spent a little while with us on Sunday, the 28th of April. The event is beyond the Earth Day because we want to attract people of all ages and all styles of life to inspire them to commit to actions that will improve their health, their internal environment, so they can organize their choices as consumers, how they're going to be walking around, how they're going to choose their food. So it's www.beyonearthday.com. program is the same every year, but a little bit new every year. This morning at 9 o'clock, we have two instructors, a man and a woman, Stuart and Lisa Griffin, who teach yoga. We have room for 100 people. We have yoga rugs, up to 50 people who've never done yoga. They can come here. We'll loan them a young. Then there'll be songs or singing at 11:30. There's a First Nations ceremony that includes representatives from different faiths. They're going to be sharing their blessings. At 12:30, the local food buffet, which is always very good. And I'm getting involved a little more in the kitchen, so it's going to be very, very good. The menu you can find on our website. In the afternoon, there's an activity for children and adults. It's a workshop on how to find one's balance on a slack line. It looks like a tightrope, but it moves, and it's not very high. And I've been teaching that for many years, and it's a good way of giving a child the possibility of discovering that if he's practicing something very serious, it could be anything, music, but it's on a slack line. If we don't know what to do, we're going to go nowhere. But when we have simple instructions, we can do it. And in 15, 20 minutes, we're going to get improvement. And during that whole time, there's yoga for children all day long, and there's a lot of, there are going to be about 60 or 70 kiosks. We know that Bikery, which is an incredible organization, they're here and they help the residents of the 3 municipalities to start using bikes as transportation. They have bikes there. They have workshops to show how you can fix bikes. They even have a place to fix bikes. There'll be a community gardens project too. They'll be here doing all sorts of activities with youth and adults to get people to start gardening, either fresh herbs on a balcony or even in participation in a community garden. Anyway, there are a whole lot of things going on, and your secretary told you that you will be coming by. Yeah, I won't be able to stay too long because I have a conflict with another community event, but I know I will. I was looking for my schedule. To be able to tell you, no worries, you'll be there when you're there. And if there's anything that happens, well, you know, you've been coming all these years, so we know that you like us. I'll be able to go there till 1:45. Good, you'll be able to eat something or help serve food. Yeah, if you want to help serve, yes, sure, with pleasure. That's what we did last year, yes. I was so busy last year that I didn't see it. Anyway, it was just to thank you sincerely, our committee and on our volunteers. Without the municipalities, their support, the province and businesses, well, we wouldn't be able. It takes your support, the volunteers, people who come there, and the public, and we're happy. And this year I have a disciple, a young lady who I think I'll be able to pass the baton on to her. She'll be able to take the relay. I started the organization because I lived in Israel, in Palestine in September, up to September, so I started organizing things in Israel, and I got here. I'm really happy to be back in Acadie. So thank you, Olivier. We love your involvement and your commitment here, all your ideas, the ideas that come out of Earth Day. What? It's going to be the 12th year this year, yeah, so we're really happy to see you here in Dieppe, and I believe that we'll see that with the increase of traffic around the event. So once again, thank you very much. Members of council, would you have any questions or comments? We'll be there. You're busy. I leave you to it. Thank you. Thank you, Olivier. Item number 9, adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting of the 8th of April. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Arsenault. On the question. No questions? So all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. The minutes of the 8th of April have been carried as presented. We now go to motions, memorandums, and nominations. 10.1, administration. Monsieur Simard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to all. So for this item, 10.1.1, signing authority. During a meeting with Madame Monica Gould of the Greater Moncton Music Festival, the meeting was, you were there, it was agreed that the city of Dieppe would contribute financially to create grants that would be given to young residents of Dieppe, musicians who participate in this festival. It doesn't fit in with the policies of the leisure department. We created an agreement that was prepared, and you have it as the addendum. So it's to authorize basically the signature of this agreement. $500 per year for this year with possibility of a renewal next year. Questions by members of council? I know that it was discussed earlier. No? No questions. Reading of the resolution. Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council authorized the municipal signing officers to sign the partnership agreement between the City of Dieppe and the Greater Moncton Music Festival for the 2019 edition, which includes a financial commitment in the amount of $500, and further authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-20-20-2310, General Operating Budget, Funding to Organizations and Grants. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Alain, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question. No question? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. Resolution is carried. Item 10.2, Public Works. Yes, here is a recommendation for the project curb, gutter, and sidewalk repairs to give the project to A.R. Ritzel Landscaping Limited at the cost of $82,950. We have to realize that the municipality went through RFP, that there were no calls. So we're talking about Section 6 of New-Brunswick to 2014-2013. It's on markets. So the municipality talked to 3 businesses. They got 2 proposals, and we've chosen the proposal that was considered by the municipality as being the best. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council award the contract for the project entitled 2019 Curb, Gutter, and Sidewalk Repairs to A.R. Ritzel Landscaping Limited at the cost of $82,950 plus HST, and authorize the expenditure be defrayed from the general operating budget and the water and sewer operating budget accounts listed in the memorandum relating to said project dated April 8th, 2019. So moved. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Arsenault. On the question. Monsieur Alain. My question is to whom? The city manager? No, I'm just a clerk. Concerning budget, what had been budgeted for the work? And number 2, there's a big difference between the prices, so I'm kind of concerned. Yeah, it's a specific situation, so Monsieur Machin is going to respond. We have $68,000 in total for repairs. It's higher by 8 or 9% than later, so we're not going to go beyond the budgeted amount. The amount in the memorandum is based on estimates of the operation, unit prices received. Thank you. Any other questions? No other question? All those in favor of the resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is carried. Next item. 11. Municipal bylaws. Bylaw S2 2019 relating to fireworks and special effect pyrotechnics in the city of Dieppe. Wow. Yes, for safety reasons, these are elements that are basically managed by the municipality. Essentially, this bylaw has been amended using prohibition of certain pieces that could be replaced by other more safe implements. If you want to change, if you want to see the amendments, you can find it at page 50 of your trip. It's just a question of adding these elements. So for the reading of the resolution, Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw number S-2 2019, a bylaw relating to the fireworks and special effect pyrotechnics in the city of Dieppe. So moved. Moved by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Cormier. On the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. Now we go with the second reading by title only. Madame Arsenault. Bylaw number S-2 2019, a bylaw relating to fireworks and special effect pyrotechnics in the city of Dieppe. So moved. Second reading by title. Moved by Madame Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Cormier. On the question. No question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is carried. Second reading by title only. Now we go to first and second reading by title for bylaw C2 2019 relating to the collection and disposal of waste in the city of Dieppe. Essentially, once again, the amendments are basically in order to force owners to put their waste away from rodents and other animals. I mean, we've been receiving many pictures of rats. There's a problem where people dispose of their garbage in their backyard. They put that on their porches or in a corner of their piece of land, and unfortunately it attracts vermin. So we've discussed about this bylaw, and we determined that it would be a very good idea, and it would be good for the population to force people to basically protect their waste and by putting them in containers. So this is the amendments that we are proposing. Another thing too is that we received sometimes pictures of waste that remains on the curb after they've been picked up or they've been sent off by the wind, and prior there was nothing forcing residents to pick up that garbage in such cases. So this is a change. So I personally have a couple of questions. Maybe it'll pop up during question time. So for the time being, for the reading of the bylaw, by reading only, Mr. Thibodeau. Bylaw number C-2 2019, a bylaw relating to the collection and disposal of waste in the city of Dieppe. So moved. The first reading by title only. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question. No questions? Monsieur Cormier? Not on the motion as such, but would it be good for the municipality to look into encouraging some organizations to have a funding campaign to have garbage cans that could be that would all be the same for the residents? It's not a bad idea. My question was on actually there was a citizen that had offered last year to work with people from Echo 360 in the municipality to find a solution. So I'm wondering what kind of follow-up there's been. From our side, bylaws, there haven't been any follow-ups, okay? So maybe we should consult. I mean, there'll be time between the second reading and the third one. Yes, for sure. And another element, internally, we've thought of consulting the population concerning waste. It's an important topic, and I know that it's going to bring forth some animated discussions, but we maybe want to see if we can use the internet platform to obtain certain comments from the people. This is basically a first step. It's to make sure that we can put the waste in a container to avoid other difficulties and problems. But the fundraising campaign and the use of bins is certainly going to be discussed. Thank you. My comments, did they bring forth other questions? If not, all those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. So, bylaw C2 has been carried first reading. Now we go to the second reading by title only. Monsieur Thibodeau. Bylaw number C-2 2019, a bylaw relating to the collection and disposal of waste in the city of Dieppe. So moved. Second reading by title only. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution signify that we accept or the C2 in second reading. Signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. It is carried. That concludes a good portion of our agenda. Item 12, notices of motion. No notices of motion. Item 13, inquiries and announcements by members of council. And I do believe that we start on my left. Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. One, it's Mother's Day on the 12th of May, Sunday, so a great Mother's Day to all moms, especially to my mom. And I have a question for Mr. Knowles. Concerning the potholes, as we know, this is the time of year, and I've been asked if we're going to fill our potholes here in Dieppe. So what's the answer? I'm looking for an answer. Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Yes, with the winter that we've had, fluctuation, temperature, rain, ice, snow, sometimes within the same storm. We started repairs a month ago. It continues where we filled approximately 100 potholes up to now, but we have to realize that it's only temporary. Operations with hot asphalt will be starting probably during the first week of May. So there's still broken up asphalt, but the objective is not to repair the whole thing. It's just the potholes that could cause damages to cars. That's our objective for the time being. Thank you. Madame Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to say, Mr. Knowles, that our streets look better than those of our neighbors. That's my personal opinion. A question for Madame Spencer. The sign, the Dieppe sign, as we're coming in from Moncton on Champlain Street, the lights are all on the sign, but where's the... So we're aware of the situation. We've talked to the communication. They're the ones who set up the sign. We have to meet the owner with the... yeah, they know what the problem is. Thank you very much. Monsieur Thibaudot, I have nothing tonight. Madame Le Boutillier. For Madame Spencer, Chartersville speed. We've received a recommendation, so we expect to start when to get it all started. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you remember, we were suggesting signs that posted speeds. They were ordered in fall. Winter came along and we hadn't received the signs. We have them now, but the soil is very soft, so they don't want to install them if they don't sit right. So as soon as the soil is not as wet, they will be installed. Is that it? Yes, that's it. Councillor Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to congratulate the girls, and even if the teams which participated in the Eastern Canada tournament in Oshawa in Ontario, there are some girls that come from outside of Dieppe. It still remains that the good majority of the girls are from Dieppe, and they did very well. The Hot Shots got the gold medal in U14, and the Stingers, a New-Brunswick team, got the bronze medal. U16 sold, and the U19 silver. So very beautiful weekend, lots of activities. And I must say that the behavior of these girls was exemplary. So I want to congratulate them for their exploits, but also for their active participation in this sport. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of meetings ago, I had mentioned the crosswalk on Dieppe Boulevard by Engelhardt. It had been mentioned that it was a question of budget. So what kind of budget will we need this to install this? I still see people trying to cross, and every time I get a cold sweat. So what kind of budget will we need to install a light there? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So preliminary estimates are saying that it's approximately $100,000 because we need real traffic lights. And like I was mentioned at the last meeting, since that time, though, there have been discussions with Kodiak Transport to try to see, and Monsieur Richard, I think at the next meeting will give you a proposal. So it's a question of changing the ways. It'll help. So maybe we can avoid installing lights like this, but it'll be the presentation. Okay, what I'm starting to see also is cyclists that are going to Mike's bike shop. Well, aware also that the daycare wants to use that path, but they have the option of, I forgot the name of the street that's parallel to Dieppe, so that they could get to there and they can cross at the lights safely. So it would be good for pedestrians and cyclists. So we'd encourage them to do that rather than cross where there's no lights or anything like that. Thank you. That's it. So I have nothing, except maybe a little bit like my colleague, the Councillor Alain. Happy Mother's Day to all moms. And especially good evening to all.
Ouais, ben oui. C'est pas la mer à boire, hein? Il n'y a rien de plus sourd qu'une personne qui ne veut pas entendre.